Welcome to MILF Ministry podcast, where we explore self-love, healing, and intimacy. My name is Ayodele Vassell. I'm an attorney, a creative, and a MILF. Merch is now available at milfministry.com. You can join our live conversations on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter by following at MILF Ministry. Today's topic is love changes. Once again, I kind of like to start the show by explaining the lens through which I speak. So I'm a woman who is married. I have one child. I'm now divorced, and I am doing my thing in Los Angeles. What I've gone through inspired this very interesting podcast, MILF Ministry. So I am a very emotional, overthinking, type A Scorpio water spirit, which means that I love, but I'm extremely cynical. And it's hard, very hard for me to trust people, so to speak. So the idea of love sounds beautiful. It looks beautiful. The idea of trusting someone with my heart sounds terrifying. But yeah, that's kind of like a brief understanding of who I am. And the reason why the episode is titled Love Changes is because I truly believe that once you've been in a serious relationship, I don't care what it is, if you've been married or had a boyfriend for really, I'd say over 5 years, but in my case, 10 to 15 years, I'm talking a long-term relationship. Once you've been in a long-term relationship that has produced a child or multiple children, and then you choose to leave that relationship, I believe as a woman, you'll never love the same again. I believe women are socialized to kind of romanticize love and believe in fairy tales and believe in happily ever after. We're groomed socially to think, if not him, the love of my life. We're always searching for the love of our life. If not him, then who? And I believe that men are socialized a little bit differently, which is they may love you, wife, girlfriend, whatever, but if for whatever reason something doesn't work out, typically life goes on from it. The experience of getting divorced taught me as a woman that life goes on. Whether you want it to or not, life goes on. It must go on. And it's your personal choice to be happy, right? But what does that look like? What does that really mean? What it means is that any new relationship you enter that relationship knowing that if it doesn't work out, meaning that you break up with your new partner, new boyfriend, new husband, new whatever you decide to be, you will be okay and life will go on. Why do you know this? Because you've already left the father of your children, right? And so you've already been through the heartbreak, the what if scenarios, the going through basically breaking a whole family apart, like the disappointment of your child, your own disappointment. You and your partner may have wanted to have more children and just the realization that that's never going to happen. Your children may have wanted you to stay together. That's not going to happen. All these disappointing things to your community. Your community may have wanted your relationship to work out. That's not going to happen. So you've gone through all of this type of disappointment before and you've survived it, right? You survived it and you've decided, I'm ready to move on. But like I said, what does that mean? It means that when you move on knowing that it may not work out. And if it does work out, you'll be okay. So what does this really mean? I can only tell you what it means to me. I can't tell you what it means to you because I don't have all the answers for the universe. I can just tell you what the experience has taught me. It motivated me to be very clear with the universe about what I wanted out of a relationship. I was very meticulous. At first, I wrote down the physical attributes and the emotional attributes and the financial attributes and all these attributes that I desired in a partner. And that's not something that I ever thought to do. And part of it was probably because I got married really young. I was married at the age of 24, 25, something like that. I don't even remember. And by 21, I was already engaged, if not 20. Once again, everything's a blur. I don't even really remember specific dates, but I got engaged and got married at a young age. And in my family, just for those, if this is your first time listening, in my family, that's kind of what women did. When women were independent and educated, specifically like my grandmothers worked and my mother worked, even though they didn't have to. My grandparents, specifically my grandfathers, and my father were able to take care of the household. So the women in my life worked because they wanted to work, not because they had to. But marriage was still strongly encouraged, and that's just what everyone did. Aunts, uncles, cousins, like that's what people did. And by the time it got to my generation, I'm one of the oldest grandchildren, we started and we failed. So of all the cousins in my generation that did get married, I think most of us are divorced with like 1 or 2 kids, or most of us have only like 1 kid. And then there are a few of us who, I think 2 of us are married with 1 child and 2 of us are divorced with a child. We really are half and half in this thing. And prior to this generation, my generation, people just got married and stayed married until the partners passed. I say all that to say that marriage was valued in my family, but the art of choosing your partner as a woman, choosing your partner, the art of that wasn't really valued. What do I mean by that? Like I said, after I decided to date, this is after my divorce and months after me thinking about what I wanted to do and what kind of woman I wanted to be, I sat down and thought about some of the characteristics that were important to me to find in a mate. And it just came to my attention that that's not what people do. Right? Typically, you meet someone, you have some good chemistry, the sparks fly, and then it's like, well, is he educated? Is he a spiritual person or religious? Is he not an abuser? Not is he emotionally available and emotionally supportive for me specifically, but just is he not abusive? And once you hit those 3 requirements, boom, he's a good person. He's a good husband. And as I've said in other episodes, that's not always, the best way to groom a woman or socialize a woman to help her pick a good partner. And like I said, even deeper than that, we're taught you're supposed to be together forever. And I just believe that can create an unhealthy dynamic where people feel stuck. Once again, I can only speak from my experience, but that's what I felt like. I remember feeling that way in my relationship, like not being happy with certain things and how they were going, but feeling like, well, I chose to marry him, so this is what I have to deal with. This is what I have to live with, and feeling very unhappy and very sad and feeling stuck. And that wasn't a good feeling emotionally. And I don't remember feeling empowered. And this is not to criticize my family, but I don't remember feeling empowered that how I felt emotionally was a valid reason to leave my marriage. If you listen to other episodes or previous episodes, you should remember a conversation that I talked to you about with my grandmother. And I remember saying to my grandmother, you won't really understand why I left my ex, because the reasons were emotional. And to someone that was born in 1922, you didn't really get married for emotions. You got married because it made good business sense. It made good financial sense. He was a good person to the community, and he came from a good family, and he could take care of you financially. And a lot of what I'm talking about now, when I talk about love changes and you'll never love the same, it can kind of go 2 ways. So I believe that you could enter a relationship and you could say, listen, feelings are great, but feelings alone will not sustain a relationship, which is the harsh truth. And so because you know that feelings alone won't sustain a relationship, a lot of times when people get married the second time or choose a relationship the second time, it's really based on business. Will you work well with whatever business I have set up, with how I run my household, with my children? A lot of the love energy is not really that important, because most people, when they get married the first time, they got married for love, and you realize that it takes so much more than love to make it work. And then the second part of people are people like me who realize, yes, all of that is true. You have to be financially compatible and have some of the same core values fundamentally, hopefully spiritually. But you realize even more how much more your emotional and spiritual connection matters. And you're still seeking love. When you move forward, you're still seeking love. And you won't bend on that. So you're like, yes, I need someone that's financially responsible and can make me feel safe emotionally, but can also make me feel safe financially. Will I be okay if something happens to me? Is he thinking about our future if something happens to him? Like that's a whole different level of safety and analysis when you're trying to choose a partner. Some people, especially older people, when they get married, they think like that. But younger people, they don't really think like that. It's just love, love, love. But yeah, you look at your relationship a lot differently. And last but not least, I believe that I came out of my divorce realizing that I don't have to be with anybody. I can make it work, and I can choose to make it work, or I can choose to not make it work, but I still have to be okay. I have to be okay for myself, and I have to be okay for my daughter. So entering a relationship with that kind of energy can kind of be intimidating to other people, because it's like, dang, you would just leave me just like that? And it's not that I would leave you just like that. It's just that I have already been through a major heartbreak, and I know that life will be okay. So I approach a relationship from the framework of, I'm choosing to be here. I'm choosing to be with you. And I'm going to communicate what I need to be okay. And hopefully you can communicate what you need to be okay. And I understand that if we can't get on the same page, I don't have to hate you. It don't even need to go there. We just realize that we're not on the same page, or we're not compatible, and that's okay. And when I say love changes, you'll never love the same again, that's what I mean. Because I feel like there's a part of me I'm not really trying to argue. And it sounds so selfish, because you do need to communicate with your partner, and you absolutely will have conflict. You're not the same person, and you do need to discuss your feelings and how you feel. But there's a big part of me that's just like, you already know how I am. You already know how I feel, right? This is assuming that your partner knows you, right? And I'm not really trying to waste time repeating myself over and over again, especially if you're a mom and you already got to repeat yourself to your kids. Are you really trying to repeat yourself to your partner? You know what I mean? At the same time that you have to kind of pace yourself in a relationship as well. But I feel like that's one of the biggest ways that I've been changed by love, because I know that you can love someone, and I know that they can love you back, and it still doesn't work out for whatever reason. It's not about blame or right or wrong. I just know that can happen. So once you know that can happen, I just feel like you approach relationships from a different place. The second thing that I feel that made me different and has changed me because of divorce is that I had to learn how to find healthy coping mechanisms on my own. I realized that, I call it codependency for lack of a better word, but I realized that I had a lot of my self-worth wrapped up in the image of marriage and wrapped up in the image of being in a relationship. And simple things from feeling lonely to just wanting to have someone to share intimacy with. And intimacy is not always sexual. It could just be simply someone touching the small of your back, or coming up and giving you a kiss on your neck, which I absolutely love. A hug, a kiss, a how was your day? Any of those things, right? Realizing that you really enjoy that, and you like that, and you need that. And most humans love that. I don't care what you say. Most people, you love some form of intimacy, even the most callous person, right? But especially me, I can't speak for other people. I really value intimacy, and I had to find healthy ways to release energy into the universe, so that I've found or so that I gave myself space to find intimacy again. I really realized that I had to focus on healthy coping mechanisms. And what do I mean by that? Like, how would I handle disappointment? How would I handle frustration? How would I learn how to communicate, right? Especially because it was important for me to not feel stuck. Like, oh, well, I got to be in this relationship, so argue, whatever. Like, we're just stuck. No, let's find a healthy way to communicate. And then if we decide it's not healthy to be together, that's okay. And so once again, I've discussed how much I love dancing and how much I love poetry and how much I enjoy going to the beach if I need to just kind of reset my energy, because sometimes I just feel sad and it's unexplainable. It could be just the weight of motherhood, adulting, financial responsibilities, career planning, just all these goals and ambitions that I have for myself. It could be the weight of that I'm not it's not on my it's not on my, conscious level, but it's kind of buried in your subconscious. Like, oh, there are all these things that you want to accomplish and you haven't taken the time to do that. And sometimes I feel overwhelmed by that. But I say all that to say, how is that connected to love? Well, when you have a partner, hopefully that partner is supporting you and encouraging you to do the things that uplift your spirit. And certainly when I'm looking for a new partner, or when I was looking for a new partner, like those were the things at the top of my list. Someone that wanted to see me succeed, someone that knew how ambitious I was and was there to be a cheerleader, for lack of a better word. Not only can you do it, but I'm going to support you. I'll give you space when you need to record. I'll give you space when you need to think. I'll give you space when you need time for your child. I'll give you space when you need time for your girlfriends. But also, I need to see you. Finding that healthy balance of, I really want to see you. I really want to spend time with you, because I love that. I love being wanted. But that healthy balance of, she needs time to live her own life, and she also needs time to find her own happiness on her own. And I think it's a blessing when you can find a partner that understands that and that's also doing that for themselves. Because once you realize, as we discussed earlier, once you realize that life does go on, I think having a life set up and having healthy relationships outside of your intimate relationship set up just kind of helps buffer you for whatever life can bring your way. So someone wants to be in your life or doesn't want to be in your life, you have things that you do that bring you joy that have nothing to do with that relationship. And that doesn't mean that you don't value your intimate time or value your partner, your boyfriend, your lover, your husband, whatever. It doesn't mean that you don't value them. It just means that you've set your life up in such a way where you have pockets of joy that are not connected to another individual. They're connected to your life, your purpose, your mission. And I think that's really one of the most important things that I learned through divorce, because I don't believe that I maintain that for myself. So I had things that I enjoyed doing before I met my partner, and I slowly but surely stopped doing things that I enjoyed just for myself after I got married. Now, some of the stuff I stopped doing had nothing to do with my partner. It had to do with, oh, well, I'm a wife now, so let me focus on being the best wife I can be. And then I became a mother. So then all my energy kind of went to being the best mother I could be. And now I take a much more disciplined approach and a much more balanced approach for how I handle myself, because I let my child know that my adult time is very important to me. I let my friends know how much adult time is important to me. I realize that any future relationship may or may not end, and that it is my responsibility to be okay. It doesn't matter the length of the relationship or the nature of the relationship. It's my responsibility to be okay. And entering a relationship with that energy, I believe, changes the way you love. And sometimes it's painful to think about that, because I look at other couples and I really look and I see people, I don't want to say lost in love, but that's the best way I can describe it, is lost in love. They look at this person and this person is their end all be all. That person is their partner. They really truly can't imagine life without that person. They have all of their hopes and all of their dreams wrapped up in the belief that they will be with this person until they die, and that they'll have all of their children with this person. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I think you should enter marriage feeling like this is my partner and this is who I want to be with, and we're here to work together and we're here to make each other happy and we're here to make things work. And so while I don't see anything wrong with it, it's still hard for me emotionally, because I know that I don't love like that anymore, because I know that the relationship may not work out, and I know that life still has to go on, right? And while these people also share the same knowledge that I do, they know that anything could happen where their relationship could end and they're not together. Because they haven't been tested in a way where that's a reality, I just believe they can love a little more free than I can, if that makes sense. And sometimes I don't want to say down on myself, but I really do feel like I wish I could be that free. I wish I could be that open. And I want to get to a place where I'm with someone and I can just be like, you know what? It doesn't really matter where we end up or how long we are together. I want to enjoy the present moment of what we're doing. Because what I'm saying is I believe that people who are married, especially for the first time, no kids, no nothing, that's what they're doing. They're enjoying the present moment and they're holding on to the belief that this is what they're going to do. And someone like me and people like me who've actually been divorced and left the father of their children, you know that you can absolutely have that feeling and then it doesn't work out. So it's kind of like, how can you get yourself back to ever feeling that way again with like, oh, this is husband number 2 or this is husband number 3 and he's it. You know what I mean? He's my ride or die. And I put all my hopes and faith and dream and everything in him. How do you get there? I don't know if you ever do. And that's why the episode is titled Love Changes. And granted, there's some people that never believe in fairy tales and enter relationships from a very practical standpoint. So this episode is not really dedicated to you. It's really dedicated to people who, for lack of a better word, possess the ability to love freely. And I want to hear from you all. I want to hear from people who have moved on and they're just like, my spirit is open, my heart is open, my new partner is the partner for me. He loves me. He loves my children. We had more children. You know, we stayed together for XYZ years. It would be really nice to hear from listeners that have had that experience. Just because, I mean, I've seen it. I see people get remarried. I see people move on. I see people survive, both in my own family and in my friend circle and just in life in general. I'm a true believer that life is what you make it. And like I said, going back to what I always say, you choose happiness. So for lack of a better word, I'm really fascinated about this concept, right? Of how love changes after you leave someone that you didn't think you'd leave. And how life changes and how relationships change, because you know that any future relationship could end because you already ended one, a serious one. And so how does that affect the way you move? How does that affect the way you love? I'm really interested by that concept. Thanks for listening to this episode of MILF Ministry Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and then share it. Merch is available at milfministry.com. You can join our live conversations about self-love, healing, and intimacy by following at MILF Ministry on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. My name is Ayodele Vassell. I'm an attorney, a creative, and a MILF. And I pray you always have honey for your spirits and honey for your lips.